Hi, I'm Dean with Maxi-Lift. This is another in our ongoing series of pro tips. Now at Maxi-Lift, we get questions a lot about what is the possible capacity that I can get out of my bucket elevator. Can I upgrade the capacity? And that might be possible. I'd like to address that today. First of all, you need to know that we need to do proper engineering in order to figure out what is going to be possible. Number two, you're going to need a capacity calculator of some sort, which we have available at Maxi-Lift. And number three, if you contact us, we'll be glad to help out with that. Determine what capacity is possible with your bucket elevator. Let's look at an example here where our customer has a 7,500 bushel per hour bucket elevator, and he wants to know what is the possible high amount of capacity that we can get on this bucket elevator. What I've done is I've put this information into our capacity calculator. I'd like to show you first of all what they have in their bucket elevator. So if you look at this capacity calculator that we have, I've selected the product of the buckets being CC-Max 14x7. The pulley diameter is 43 inches. You might say that sounds like an odd diameter. Well, what I've done is gone with a 42-inch diameter pulley, and then you add a ½ inch for the thickness of the lagging. And that ½ inch is all the way around, increases the diameter to 43 inches. The RPM is 59, bucket spacing is 9 inches, which is common for a 7-inch projection bucket, 1 row of buckets, product density at 45 pounds per cubic foot, and we'll say that the buckets are filled 100%. In this particular case, if we go over to the right-hand side, up in the right-hand corner, you'll see that the bushels per hour at water level, which is the easiest to just work with for this example, is 7502. So he's getting 7,500 bushels per hour, and he's happy with that right now, but he wants more. Let's go a little bit further down there to the belt selection, once again in the orange boxes on the right-hand side. The current belt is a 3-ply 330 rubber belt. The leg height is 150 foot. If you go down to the very last box on the right-hand side, you can see it requires a 44 horsepower motor, which means you're going to be using a 50 horsepower motor because you don't have such a thing as a 44. Now let's take a look at what's possible for the maximum that they could get out of this bucket elevator. You'll see that I've selected CC-Max low profile 14x7 buckets. The pulley diameter and the speed have remained the same, but the spacing is now 6 inches, which is common for a low profile bucket. We can get them much closer together. The number of rows, product density, and percent fill have remained the same, but if you look over on the right-hand side in the upper corner again, the bushels per hour at water level has gone up over 11,000 to 11,254. And the customer is excited about that he can get over 10,000 bushel per hour with this bucket elevator. But let's see what else has happened. As we move down into the belt selection, there on the right-hand side with the orange boxes again, you'll see the belt now is a 4-ply 440. And if we look down to the very last box there on the right-hand side, the adjusted horsepower required is 63. That means you're going to need a 75 horsepower motor. What you're going to see in this next chart is that if you have a 50 horsepower motor, it's requiring a 4 7/16 head shaft, and that's fine. But if you jump up to a 75 horsepower motor, it jumps up to a 4 15/16 head shaft. That's going to change a lot of things. Now, I got my start in this industry doing power transmission work, understanding motors and speed reducers and those type of things. And so if that shaft changes and your horsepower changes, a lot of other things are going to be required to change as well. Let's take a look at one more photo that I can give you an idea of all the things that are going to be required if you change the horsepower of this bucket elevator. So in this photo, what you're looking at is a large bucket elevator head section. You can see the pulley, the shaft, the bearings, and so forth. But what I'd like to point out is that if you have to increase the shaft of that bucket elevator head section, the pulley is going to have to be replaced. And you wonder why, and it's because I can promise you that the manufacturers of head pulleys do not put large hubs in with the idea that someday you're going to put in a larger shaft. So that means your pulley has to be replaced along with the shaft. Of course, we already talked about the motor and the speed reducer, but look at those bearings. Bearings have to be replaced. The thing I'd like to point out is that that bearing is sitting on a bridge tree. Currently, it's got an exact footprint that it can fit on. If you have a larger bearing, the footprint is larger. At some point, that bridge tree will not be able to match that bearing, meaning that you may need to replace the entire head section if you increase this to the maximum capacity of that bucket elevator. And let's not forget, if you increase all those things on the head section, the boot shaft is probably going to have to be increased in size as well, and the bearings and other components down there. So I've addressed all these different things that need to be replaced if you're going to get maximum capacity in this capacity upgrade. What that tells me is that you may not want to go that far, but we can work with you to find out how much you can increase the capacity without needing all of those changes. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about. If you have questions about getting the most capacity from your bucket elevator, contact Maxi-Lift. For all of us at Maxi-Lift, I'm Dean 𝐌𝐚𝐻𝐿. This has been another in our Pro Tips. Thanks for watching.